Hello, 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 and welcome back to Octo English Academy, the coziest, most comfortable corner of the English learning world. I'm Sophie, and I am so genuinely happy you're here with us today. Wherever you are right now, sitting by a window, on a long commute, hiding in the kitchen from everyone in your house, you are so welcome here. Pull up a chair, take a breath. Let's talk.
Hey everyone, Jamie here. I'm so glad you're here today because I want to start with a question that I think lives in the back of a lot of people's minds, quietly, persistently, especially when you're building a life in a new country. The question is, am I earning enough?
Am I earning enough? Not, am I rich? Not, am I doing well compared to someone else? Just the basic, honest question, is what I have enough to live a decent, stable, dignified life here, in this city, with my expenses, with my goals?
And it's a question that's surprisingly hard to answer because enough in America depends enormously on where you live, on whether you have dependents, children, elderly parents, on your healthcare situation, on your student loans or other debts, on what you consider a minimum acceptable quality of life. A salary of $50,000 in rural Tennessee and a salary of $50,000 in San Francisco are not the same thing at all.
At all. One is comfortable. One is barely survivable, if that, and yet the number is the same, which is why today we are not going to give you one simple answer. We are going to give you a framework, a way to think about salary in relation to real life costs, so that you can figure out what enough actually means for you, specifically where you are.
That's the goal, not a number, a framework, and alongside that, the vocabulary you need to understand salary conversations, financial planning discussions, and the cost of living debates you will hear everywhere in America.
Okay, check-in time. How are you doing today? Full sentence. I feel stressed today because I just found out how much rent costs in the city I'm moving to. Or, I feel curious today because I've been wondering if I'm being paid fairly.
Both are completely welcome here. In today's comment challenge, I'm your name from your country, and today I feel emotion because reason.
Drop it in the comments. We read them all. Let's get into it.
Today's episode is how much salary do you really need in the US? And I want to start with something that always surprises people when they first hear it. The median household income in America, the middle point, where half of households earn more and half earn less, is roughly $70,000 per year. For a household, not an individual.
For a household. So if two people are working and earning a combined $70,000, they are at the median, right in the middle of the American income distribution. And yet, depending on where they live, whether they have children, whether they have healthcare costs, they might still be struggling.
That is the paradox at the heart of American financial life. The numbers can look large from the outside, especially for someone coming from a country where average incomes are lower. And then you arrive, and you see the rent, and the healthcare, and the childcare, and the student loans, and the number that seemed large suddenly feels very tight.
Very tight. So today, we decode the real numbers. We talk about the cost of living in different kinds of American cities. We talk about the difference between surviving and thriving, and we give you the tools to evaluate your own situation honestly. Before we talk numbers, let's talk about two different standards we're measuring against: surviving and thriving.
Surviving, having enough to meet your basic needs. Food, shelter, utilities, basic transportation, basic healthcare. You are not going hungry, you are not sleeping outside, but you have very little margin. An unexpected bill, a car repair, a medical visit creates a crisis. You are one bad month from real trouble.
Thriving, having enough not only for your needs, but also for some comfort, some savings, some flexibility. You can go out to eat occasionally. You can afford to take a sick day without financial panic. You are building towards something, a savings account, retirement, maybe ownership someday. You have cushion.
Cushion, a financial buffer, an amount of money that absorbs unexpected shocks. She kept 3 months of expenses as a cushion in her savings account. After the job loss, they had no cushion. It was immediately desperate. The image is a physical cushion, something soft that absorbs impact. Financial cushion does the same for life's impacts.
And there is a space between surviving and thriving that many Americans occupy, particularly immigrants, particularly people early in their American journey. A kind of precarious middle, where you are meeting your needs, but barely, where one thing going wrong threatens to unravel everything.
Precarious, not secure, dependent on circumstances that could change at any moment, unstable. Her financial situation was precarious. She was one missed paycheck away from missing rent. The job felt precarious, a contract position with no guarantee of renewal. It's a word that carries weight. Precarious living is exhausting, the constant low-level anxiety of not quite having enough margin.
And the goal of understanding salary, really understanding it, is to know where you are on that spectrum and to know what it would take to move toward thriving, or at minimum to build enough cushion that the precarious feeling can loosen its grip a little.
Okay, the single most important factor in what salary you need is where you live. America is a vast country. The cost of living difference between its most expensive and least expensive places is staggering, sometimes 2 to 3 times more expensive.
Let's put 3 cities side by side to make this real. San Francisco, California, one of the most expensive cities in the country. Austin, Texas, a mid-tier city that has grown more expensive in recent years. And Columbus, Ohio, a more affordable, mid-sized Midwestern city.
In San Francisco, a one-bedroom apartment in a livable neighborhood costs roughly $3,000 to $4,000 per month in rent. After tax, at a salary of $100,000 per year, you might take home about $6,500 per month. Your rent alone is nearly half your take-home pay, before food, transportation, healthcare, anything else.
$100,000, and you're spending almost half of it on rent. That's the San Francisco reality. Many tech workers there earn between $100,000 and $200,000 and still feel financially stretched.
In Austin, that same one-bedroom runs roughly $1,500 to $2,200, more manageable. At a salary of $65,000, take home of around $4,000 per month, rent is about a third to a half of income. Tight, but workable, especially with roommates or a partner.
And in Columbus, Ohio, a one-bedroom apartment might cost $800 to $1,200. At a salary of $50,000, take home around $3,200 a month. That's a much healthier ratio. Rent is roughly a third of income. Room for savings, room for life.
Take-home pay, the amount of money left in your paycheck after all taxes and deductions. My salary is $60,000, but my take-home pay is about $3,800 a month after taxes. We covered this in detail in our paycheck episode. The key point here, always think in take-home, not gross. The gross number is not the number you live on.
Gross salary, your total salary before any deductions. Net salary, or take-home pay, what you actually receive after taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and any other deductions. The gap between those two numbers is significant and surprises many people, especially immigrants, who come from countries with different tax structures.
And cost of living calculators exist online. MIT's Living Wage Calculator, NerdWallet, CNN Money. These tools let you enter your city and family size and see what a basic living wage actually is. A living wage is the minimum hourly wage needed to cover basic living expenses. Not comfort, not savings, just basic coverage.
Living wage, the minimum hourly wage needed to cover basic living expenses. It varies enormously by location. In some rural counties, it might be $15 an hour. In San Francisco, it might be $40 an hour for a single adult. she researched the living wage for her city before accepting the job offer. Knowing the living wage for your location gives you a baseline for evaluating whether an offer is survivable.
Okay, now let's give you the framework we promised. The most commonly cited budgeting guideline in American personal finance is the 50-30-20 rule. Have you heard of it?
I have, and it's simple enough to use but powerful enough to change how you think about money. Here it is. Take your monthly take-home pay. 50% should go to needs, essential expenses. 30% should go to wants, lifestyle choices. 20% should go to savings and debt repayment.
Needs, the essentials: rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, transportation to work, health insurance, minimum debt payments, the things without which your life doesn't function.
Wants, the choices: dining out, streaming subscriptions, gym membership, vacations, new clothing beyond basics. Entertainment, the things that make life more enjoyable, but that you could technically reduce or eliminate if you had to.
And savings, the 20%. This includes building your emergency fund, contributing to retirement, and paying down debt above the minimums. The emergency fund is especially important, a cash reserve equal to 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, kept in a savings account for life's unexpected moments.
Emergency fund, money set aside specifically for unexpected crises: job loss, medical emergency, major car repair, family emergency requiring travel. She had a fully funded emergency fund. When the layoff came, she had 6 months to find her footing. Having an emergency fund is the single most stabilizing financial act available to most people. It is what turns a crisis into a setback instead of a catastrophe.
Let's run the numbers. If your take-home pay is $3,000 per month, 50% is $1,500 for needs, 30% is $900 for wants, 20% is $600 for savings and debt. Does that work in your city? In Columbus, Ohio, probably yes. In San Francisco, absolutely not. The 50% needs category alone would require $1,500, and rent alone is $3,000.
Which is why the 50-30-20 rule is a framework, not a law. In expensive cities, many people operate on 70-20-10, 70% for needs, 20 for wants, 10 for savings, or even 75-15-10. The point is to be intentional, to know what percentage of your income goes where, and to push the savings number as high as your circumstances allow.
Intentional, done with purpose and awareness, not accidental. She was intentional with her budget. Every dollar had a direction. Being intentional with money means it doesn't just disappear. You know where it went, and knowing gives you choices.
Okay, we need to talk about the costs that people don't mention when they talk about salaries, the hidden costs of American life that genuinely shock new arrivals.
Healthcare. Let's start there because it is the biggest one. In many countries, healthcare is largely covered by taxes. You pay taxes, the government covers most healthcare costs, and going to the doctor doesn't require a complicated conversation about insurance and deductibles.
In America, as we discussed in our doctor episode, healthcare is primarily private and insurance-based. Even if your employer provides health insurance, you typically pay a portion of the premium from your paycheck. And then, when you actually use healthcare, co-pays, deductibles, co-insurance. A single emergency room visit without insurance can cost tens of thousands of dollars.
The average American worker pays roughly $5,000 to $7,000 per year out of pocket for healthcare, including premiums, co-pays, and deductibles, sometimes more. That is a significant chunk of salary that has no equivalent in most other developed countries. When comparing American salaries to salaries in other countries, this must be factored in.
Factor in, to include something as part of a calculation or consideration. When evaluating the job offer, she factored in the healthcare costs. Factor in transportation, childcare, and taxes before deciding if the salary is sufficient. Not factoring in hidden costs is how people end up earning what looks like good money, but feeling perpetually short.
Perpetually, continuously, without end. He felt perpetually behind financially, despite earning more every year. She was perpetually tired from working 2 jobs. Perpetually suggests something that never resolves, a permanent state rather than a temporary one.
Childcare. If you have young children, childcare in America is extraordinarily expensive. The national average for infant daycare is roughly $15,000 to $20,000 per year. In major cities, $30,000 is not unusual. That is more than a year of college tuition at many state universities.
Some families find that one partner's entire salary after taxes goes entirely to childcare, meaning one person is essentially working for free just to enable the other person to work. The calculus of whether to work or to care for children at home is often a financial calculation, not just a personal one.
Calculus. Complex calculation involving multiple variables, not just math, a broader word for weighing multiple factors. The decision required careful calculus, income versus childcare versus commute versus flexibility. It's used metaphorically in everyday English to mean a complex decision with many moving parts.
Transportation. In cities with strong public transit, New York, Chicago, Boston, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., you may not need a car. But in most of America, a car is not optional, it is essential. And car ownership is expensive. Monthly car payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, registration, the total can easily reach $700 to $1,000 per month.
And student loans. Many Americans carry significant student loan debt from their college education. The average student loan balance is around $30,000, but many people owe much more, sometimes 6 figures. Monthly loan payments can eat several $100s that could otherwise be going to savings or rent.
Student loan. Money borrowed to pay for higher education. She graduated with $60,000 in student loans. For immigrants who attended university in their home country, this may not apply directly, but it affects the salaries of American colleagues and the broader financial culture. Understanding it helps you understand why many Americans feel financially constrained, even on what appear to be decent salaries.
Let's talk about real salary ranges, what different types of jobs actually pay in America, and why knowing this matters for negotiating your own salary.
We learned in our raise episode that knowing your market rate is essential. So here is a broad, honest picture of what different career levels typically earn in America in current dollars. These are approximate national medians. Specific cities and companies vary.
Entry level. Someone new to a field, typically with less than 2 years of experience. Entry-level salaries across many professional fields range from $35,000 to $60,000 per year, depending on the industry.
Mid-level, 3 to 7 years of experience, professional competency established. Mid-level salaries in most fields range from $60,000 to $100,000.
Senior level, 7 or more years, often with management or leadership responsibilities. Senior salaries range from $90,000 to over $150,000 in many professional fields. In tech, finance, law, and medicine, considerably higher.
And some specific examples. Registered nurse, median around $75,000 to $90,000 per year, depending on state and specialty. Software engineer at mid-level, $100,000 to $140,000 nationally, significantly higher in tech hubs. Teacher, median around $60,000 to $65,000, varying widely by state and district. Electrician, median around $60,000 to $70,000, with senior tradespeople often earning more. Customer service manager, $50,000 to $70,000. Accountant, $65,000 to $90,000.
The trades, skilled manual occupations like electrician, plumber, HVAC technician, welder, are worth naming specifically because they are often overlooked in salary conversations, but pay very well, are in high demand, and typically require vocational training rather than a 4-year degree.
Vocational training. Education that teaches specific practical skills for a particular job rather than broad academic education. Trade schools, community colleges, apprenticeship programs. He completed vocational training as an HVAC technician. Within 3 years, he was earning over $70,000 a year. An apprenticeship combines work and learning. You earn while you train.
14 words. Every single one connected to your financial life here in America. Pick one that feels most urgent for you right now. Make a sentence about your own situation. Say it out loud.
And I want to give you one more thing before we close. A genuine invitation. Take 30 minutes this week, just 30, to sit down with your actual numbers, your take-home pay, your real monthly expenses. What percentage goes to needs? What goes to wants? What goes to savings, if anything? Not to judge yourself, just to see clearly, because clarity is the beginning of every good financial decision.
Clarity, the quality of being clear and easy to understand. And in personal finance, the quality of seeing your own situation honestly. She finally had clarity about her finances, and it was both harder and more empowering than she expected. Clarity is not comfortable, but it is necessary, and it is kind.
That was our episode. How much salary do you really need in the US? The difference between surviving and thriving. How the city changes everything. The 50-30-20 framework. The hidden costs nobody warns you about. Real salary ranges by industry. A real budget worked through honestly. And salary transparency. Knowing your worth and knowing your rights.
And I want to say something I genuinely believe. Money is not just money. In a new country, financial stability is the platform on which everything else is built. Your ability to focus on learning English, your ability to support your family, your ability to make choices, where to live, what job to take, whether to change paths. Financial security is the floor that makes all those choices possible.
The floor, yes. And right now, for many immigrants, that floor is not as solid as it should be, not because of lack of effort, or lack of intelligence, or lack of ambition, but because of information gaps. Because nobody explained the real numbers. Because the system is complicated, and the costs are hidden, and the vocabulary is unfamiliar.
Today, we closed some of those gaps. The vocabulary is more familiar now. The numbers are less hidden. The framework is in your hands.
You are part of this cozy club. No minimum salary required for membership, just the willingness to learn and the courage to look at your own situation clearly. We are always here.
Always. One small step at a time. Maybe today's step is calculating your take-home pay for the first time. Maybe it's looking up the living wage for your city. Maybe it's starting an emergency fund with whatever you can spare. Even $20 this month is a beginning. All of it matters.
All of it matters. Leave us your comment. I'm name from place, and today I feel emotion because reason. Like this episode, subscribe, and share it with someone who is wondering, quietly, whether they are earning enough and deserves to have real information to answer that question.
They deserve the real answer. So do you. This is Sophie.
And this is Jamie.
And you are always, always welcome here. Go look at your numbers with kindness, with clarity, with the knowledge that understanding your situation is the first step to improving it. Flower?
Let's make this concrete. Let's take a real person in a real situation and do the math honestly.
Meet Alex, single adult, no children, lives in a mid-sized American city, let's say Denver, Colorado, takes home about $4,000 per month after taxes. That corresponds to roughly a $65,000 annual salary.
Alex's monthly budget. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in a decent Denver neighborhood, about $1,600. Utilities, electric, gas, internet, roughly $200. Groceries, $300. Transportation, Alex has a car. Car payment, insurance, gas, $600 per month. Health insurance premium from paycheck, $150. Out-of-pocket healthcare costs averaged across the year about $80 per month.
That's $2,930 in needs. Out of $4,000 take-home, that leaves $1,070 for wants and savings.
If Alex saves $300 per month, which is important even if it feels slow, that leaves $770 for everything else. Dining out, entertainment, clothing, personal care, subscriptions, gifts, travel.
Is that comfortable? It depends on what you mean by comfortable. Alex is not struggling. Alex is not one bill away from crisis. But Alex is also not building wealth quickly. One large unexpected expense, a car repair, a dental procedure, takes a real bite, and travel or major purchases require deliberate saving over months.
This is the reality of a $65,000 salary in a mid-cost American city. Not poverty, not comfort, a kind of careful adequacy. The word for this in financial discussions is middle class, but even that term is contested.
Middle class, a socioeconomic group broadly defined as having stable income, some savings, home ownership aspirations, and access to education and healthcare. But the definition varies, and the experience of being middle class in America today often feels less stable than it did a generation ago. She considered herself solidly middle class, but couldn't afford to save for a house in her city.
And what would make Alex's situation genuinely comfortable? Probably a salary of $80,000 to $90,000 in Denver would allow for real savings, occasional travel, and a path toward owning a home. Above $100,000, things begin to feel more spacious, more cushion, more choices.
Spacious, having a lot of space. In personal finance, spacious means financially there is room to breathe, room to make mistakes without catastrophe, room to choose. At $90,000, her budget finally felt spacious. She could save and still live fully. Financial spaciousness is one of the most underrated forms of freedom. Okay, word tour. We covered serious ground today. Let's slow all the way down and just let these settle.
One at a time, nice and easy. Word 1. Cushion. A financial buffer that absorbs unexpected shocks, money set aside for emergencies or flexibility. She kept 3 months of expenses as a cushion so a layoff wouldn't immediately become a crisis.
Word 2. Precarious. Not secure. Unstable, dependent on conditions that could change at any moment. Their financial situation was precarious. One missed paycheck would mean missing rent. Word 3. Take-home pay. The amount left in your paycheck after all taxes and deductions, the money you actually live on. My salary is $70,000, but my take-home pay is about $4,400 a month. Word 4. Living wage. The minimum income needed to cover basic living expenses in a specific location. She used an online calculator to find the living wage for her city before accepting the job offer.
Word 5. Emergency fund. Money saved specifically for unexpected crises, job loss, medical emergency, major repairs. Building a 3-month emergency fund was the first financial goal she set after arriving.
Word 6. Intentional. Done with purpose and awareness, not accidental or unplanned. She was intentional about her spending. She tracked every dollar and gave each one a job. Word 7. Factor in. To include something as part of a calculation or consideration. Don't forget to factor in healthcare costs and taxes when evaluating a salary offer. Word 8. Perpetually. Continuously, without end. A permanent, ongoing state rather than something temporary. He felt perpetually stretched financially, even as his salary grew. Lifestyle costs kept rising. Word 9. Calculus. complex weighing of multiple factors to reach a decision, not just arithmetic, a full cost-benefit analysis. The childcare calculus was brutal. Her whole salary essentially went to paying for it. Word 11. Vocational training. Education that teaches specific practical skills for a trade or occupation. He chose vocational training over university. Within 2 years, he was earning $60,000. Word 12. Middle class. A socioeconomic group with stable income, some savings, and access to education and healthcare. She earned a middle-class salary, but felt squeezed. The cost of living had risen faster than her wages. Word 13. Salary transparency. The practice of openly sharing what jobs pay, either within companies or in job postings. The new salary transparency law meant she could see the pay range before applying. No more guessing. Word 14. Advocate. To speak up for yourself or someone else, to argue for a fair outcome. Knowing the market rate gave her the confidence to advocate for herself in the negotiation.